drink champagne. I'm totally vibing. It's true what they say. It's all about.
Hi guys, welcome and welcome back to Unscripted. My name is Cecilia and this is going to be another installment of Western Wednesdays. Now, if you're new on my channel, I post vlogs as well as fragrance reviews on this channel, and I do have another fragrance channel where I focus mostly on Middle Eastern fragrances. So how I decided to separate the two channels is on this one, it's mostly going to be vlogs, anything and everything, as well as Western fragrances. On a Wednesday, I do dedicate a cluster of fragrances, right, from the same house. And by cluster, I mean at least 3 going onwards, okay? So that if you are interested in a particular house, and I do have, say, samples or full-size bottles of that particular house, I feature it on a Wednesday, but in between, we just throw in random reviews, right? So I hope I've made that clear. Now, if you haven't subscribed, please do consider joining this family by subscribing. Now, if you're already subscribed, thank you so much for the continued support. Now, I did unbox this about 2 months ago, this Nishane Discovery set. It has 21 testers in there, okay? And the good thing about it is they also made the extra effort of making sure that each and every fragrance in there has got its notes listed here. And what I'm going to do out of the 21 is I'm going to make sure that this particular edition is going to be part 1, where I'm going to take 11 of the 21, and then we're going to have a part 2 where I finish the other 10. Okay, so this is how it looks. That is the presentation, guys, of the Nishane Discovery set. I thought this was value for money in the sense that you get to smell a lot of fragrances at the same time. This is not first impressions. I have tried them in as much as their little testers. Number 1 is going to be ZENNE, okay? Let me just take it out of its little box, and then I'm going to show you a close-up of the little vial. I know this looks ridiculous, guys, but as a fragrance reviewer, I'm going to be doing things this way for the longest time, until possibly I get a sponsorship or the channel gets big enough for me to be able to afford some of these fragrances full size. If you know the Nishane fragrances, you know that they don't joke. They are on the expensive side. Okay, so this is going to be ZENNE, okay? That is the burst there. It's actually a little bit too much. This is marketed as an extrait, so when it comes to the performance of this, you know, it is a fragrance that you are to expect the best in terms of performance, and by this I mean a fragrance that's going to last till the next wash. I get a burst of a rhubarb in the opening there, a very tart, rich, sweet rhubarb. Let me just see if there is, okay, there's grapefruit, blackcurrant, rhubarb at the top. So yes, there is that prominent rhubarb, and then there's Turkish rose, gardenia, and sandalwood. So the mid is going to have a presentation of florals, and now the florals are working here in tandem with that fruitiness, that tartness, the fruitiness of the rhubarb. So this is going to be a perfect balance of a fruity floral. However, it does present itself as a yummy sweet fragrance offset. So this is going to tick anybody's fancy who loves a sweet, you know, fruity fragrance. It's not overly sweet, but yes, definitely on the sweet side. And then, you know, as that rhubarb is still doing its thing there, playing around with that very refined gardenia, you're going to have in the mix something that comes in to kind of tone down that sweetness, adding a little bit of a sourness, and this is from the grapefruit. So it is at that point that this fragrance then becomes a fruity, floral, that is citrusy. Okay, so do expect that citrusy tone to also add in the mix, and then there's going to be a wrap up of a vanilla tone to the DNA in its entirety. It does, to my nose, pull maybe 70% feminine in terms of how the DNA vibes, but I do get how safe it is for both genders to use. I'm just trying to give you this percentage for those who are contemplating possibly to blind buy it, that the sweetness in this fragrance makes it kind of align mostly with fragrances that are favored by the females, and I'm going to keep that at 70%, and 30% is going to be, you know, a fragrance that is a genderless. Say, for instance, you're a man, you want to wear it, it's not going to be a train smash. It is definitely wearable. So this is number 1, guys, marketed as an extrait, so do expect a long-lasting fragrance from this. And even the DNA itself, as I'm smelling it, let me just put it there. The DNA in itself, the wrap up is so rich that yes, this is going to live up to the extrait concentration of it. Number 2 is going to be Hacivat, right? This fragrance has been likened a lot to Latafa's Kaid Alphasan, okay, the black one. Let me just show you a close-up of Hacivat. Okay, so that is Nishane Hacivat, and for that reason I was expecting like an outright copy, but this gave me a little bit of a surprise. Okay, I'm just going to spray it there. Okay, there we go. Right, it gave me a little bit of a surprise. It's also marketed as an extrait. A surprise in the sense that if you have used the Kaid Alphasan by Latafa, this is going to interpret as a stronger version of it. The Latafa one comes across as very fruity there with the pineapple doing the most. Something that I get from this, but there is a depth to this particular one. So say for instance, money was of no object, I would say, you know, purchase the real thing if you can afford it. But in terms of the Latafa one nailing the DNA, I'm going to say I'll put it at 60%. Now, this, to my nose, has the depth in the greenness. Okay, there's going to be that aromaticness there that is quite deep, and there is going to be a woody tone to it. Loads of spices and an okmos in here, and then a dusty patchouli. So it comes across to my nose as very amplified, as opposed to, you know, that Kaid Alphasan that we have been comparing it to a lot, right? So I'm going to say yes, they do share a little bit of some similarities. I'm saying this mostly, especially if you're coming from my other channel and you are interested in knowing whether there are differences at all. I'm going to say yes, this does feel as though it is the, you know, the work that the Kaid Alphasan was going for, the DNA that Kaid Alphasan, the black one, was going for. However, this one interprets to my nose as very aromatic, green toned there, even spicy, very spicy there, and with a very patchouli forward kind of feel to it, making this one obviously one that is going to outperform the Latafa one. Now, if I have to be honest, the Hacivat is not a fragrance that, say I had money, I would want to purchase in full size, because I think it's kind of pushing it a little bit there for me. It comes across as a fragrance that I may not gravitate towards like often, okay, as I would the Kaid Alphasan, because that one is a bit subtle. This one is like doing the most, okay, and for that reason, it's going to be one that's going to appeal to those who love beast mode fragrances. It is a wrap-up of a fragrance that feels very winter toned there. That is the depth, the richness of this fragrance. So yes, this is number 2, guys. Hacivat, a fragrance that I feel holds its own because it does present as a very concentrated there. Now, the third one, guys, is going to be 100 Silent Ways. I've been seeing this fragrance, but I have never ever set to watch anybody's review on this fragrance. I don't know why, but the name was interesting enough for me. I mean, when I purchased the discovery set and I realized, oh, it's got 100 Silent Ways, I was like, oh wow, I've seen a lot of YouTubers talk about 100 Silent Ways, but for some reason I've never even bothered, you know, to sit down and listen to the reviews. The one fragrance that I have been interested in the most is Ani, and I even ended up getting a clone of that, you know. So this came as a pleasant surprise. One that I can almost say now for the first 11 is going to be my most favorite. I'm saying for the first 11 because, you know, we've got 21 there. So we're going to do a part 2. So it's too early for me to say this is number 1. Okay. But this for now, for the 11 that I'm presenting to you today, is going to be my utmost favorite. Let me spray it in its little box. Okay. Right. This is sexy. Okay. This is refined. This is womanly. It's got that femme fatale type of thing. Okay. I know that I said I will try not to put gender to fragrances, but this just comes across to me as a quintessential feminine scent, you know, like a girl type of, you know, fragrance. Sexy, it's sweet, it's loud, it's very sophisticated. Let me see if I can just check the notes for you there for 100 Silent Ways. Mandarin, tuberose, and peach are at the top, and the peach note here is one of the most refined peach note out there. By this I'm saying it comes across as a peachy tease, not like in a fruity peachy type of way where you would, you know, outright class this as, no, it's just a peach scent. No, there is the wafts of a very refined peach there that I get at the top, and then the mid of this is going to be florals. Okay, there is jasmine, gardenia, and orris, so do expect a floral mid, but the florals again are working, you know, fusing with that peachy fruity top there, not pushing anything there. And the gardenia in this, you know, adds a creamy weight to this mix. So it just interprets as one of those sophisticated, refined scents. There is a vanilla here. but the vanilla as well is smooth, and then there's also a creamy sandalwood to add to the creamy gardenia. Beautiful fragrance overall, guys. And it was one fragrance I said to myself, if I were to save up money, I would definitely buy 100 Silent Ways. I love this fragrance, guys. It took me by surprise. I don't have anything in my collection that smells like it. It's simply fabulous, at least to my nose. Okay, so it is sitting at number 3. Let me just show you the box again. That is the presentation, guys. 100 Silent Ways by Nishane. So number 4 is going to be Nanshe. Okay, Nanshe. When I saw this, I thought it just said Nishane until I looked closely and I was like, oh, okay, it says Nanshe. Okay, so that is how Nanshe looks in its little miniature box in there. So this is the close-up, guys, of Nishane Nanshe, right? Okay, I think if I'm not mistaken, this was one of the unusual ones. It wasn't really one I would call, look, I've sprayed my arm. It's not one I would call a favorite per se, because it comes across as very aromatic there with like a piercing cold tone to it. If you've been watching some of the videos that I do with Maima, she's always talking about a cold note. In this, I actually feel what sort of a cold note, you know, going up my nose. There is a very prominent rooty oris, so this fragrance is going to present as very rooty there, even woody, aromatic there. There's also a powdery tone, a powdery wrap up to it. It's a lot of things. It's very difficult to describe, and I think it's got the carrot note, and it is that carrot note that weighs in there together with powdery accords that give it like a makeup-y thing there. So it's one fragrance that just picks on a little bit of everything, a little bit of green, a little bit of powderiness there, a little bit of spiciness there, some woods there, patchouli there, making it very, very difficult to describe. One minute you get wafts of that powderiness and you swear you're getting like a Barbie doll head kind of, you know, textured fragrance there, and then that green tone, you know, just rushes through your nasal palate. So it is one fragrance that's quite difficult to describe. One that is going to appeal to people who like sophisticated scents, something that is unique. The DNA in itself speaks or affirms itself as unisex, but I'm going to say masculine leaning by, let's say, 70%, because of that complexity and that aromatic tone that this fragrance has. So if you're a woman, I'm going to say for Nanshe, try to test before you purchase. It's even going to have something that feels a little bit Middle Eastern there, but it doesn't have oud. It is just a concoction of a very aromatic scent, even rooty there. Okay, so this is the 4th one on the lineup, guys, Nanshe. And number 5, guys, is going to be Ani. Okay, Ani is the one that made a lot of noise on the social media platform. I think to an extent of everybody paying attention to the Nishanes, right? It is one fragrance that I like, but unfortunately, you know, I'm not going to say I would purchase this. Say, for instance, I had the money. Why? Because it is one fragrance that was cloned, I mean, to the T, especially if you try the Nashit by Latafa. I know there are some houses that have also weighed in with this type of DNA. They nailed it. Apart from the lasting power, I'm going to say, if I have money, I would rather say buy the 100 Silent Ways or something else as opposed to purchasing this one. But anyway, let me give you my thoughts on the Ani, which is the real thing. Okay, so we're going to spray it in its box. I don't want this to splash on me because this can do a little bit too much. Okay, aromatic again. Okay, so we're gonna get that aromatic accord. Something in here is gonna come across as green, very spicy there, a little bit woody. The aromatic and spicy tone plus the woods of this fragrance actually makes it, to an extent, 70% masculine leaning, believe it or not. And as much as this fragrance might be maybe popular to the females out there, there is a rich tone to this fragrance that if you're not accustomed to a lot of fragrances and how, you know, a lot of fragrances have been taken like a direction where they're unique and there's a use of all sorts of notes in there, heavyweight notes and stuff, you might find this one coming across as a little bit masculine toned there. An example of it is, say, for instance, if you are into the La Vie Belles, you know, those quintessential feminine sweet scents, this is going to have an aromaticness that might bother you as a woman. So yes, in as much as it's popular amongst the ladies, or at least the people that I've seen review it, most of them were ladies, the ones that I watched. Okay, so I'm going to just use that as a mental shortcut that it is popular amongst the women. Surprisingly, having smelled the real thing, it is amped up in its aromaticness, in its patchouli tone there, in its woody tone there, presenting as a rich DNA of everything, to a point of leaning a little bit masculine there, but it is unique nonetheless. Gorgeous fragrance, way long lasting, I must say, than the Nashit, you know, the clone that I have. This is way long lasting. Let's see whether it's okay. It's also marketed as an extrait. So yeah, for that reason, I mean, if you've got the coins to spare, I'm going to say go for the real thing, because yes, it is worth every penny. And let me just put it straight up there. This is not a bias because I'm talking about the Nishanes. I just noticed that the performance when it comes to these fragrances is remarkable. Honestly, this is nothing to do with the fact that they are originals or anything, but I just noticed, you know, sometimes when you purchase a certain range, you realize, you see why, for instance, they charge a certain amount. There is a certain refinement that comes with these fragrances. There is a certain way they're blended, you know, that is quite different there. There is no stray bullets in terms of notes, or you know, like where it just shouts and then falls flat, that sort of thing. But then again, to each his own. Okay, I'm just saying this based on this discovery set, that if money was of no object, I would absolutely drop my coins on maybe 5 Nishanes full size outright. Anyways, okay. Let's get to number 6, which is going to be Nefs. Okay, Nefs, I remember, is the one that has honey and booze. So if you like boozy fragrances, this one's gonna do it for you. Okay, and it's still smelling very prominent here on its box because I did spray it earlier on. I'm just gonna refresh it for the sake of this video. Okay, there you go. Okay, I keep spraying my arm there. Keep spraying my arm there. Something that I don't want to happen. Okay, honey meets some violet, so there's going to be a little bit of some powderiness in this. Let's see, where are you, Nefs? Yeah, honey, sage, saffron, fig. I love the fig note, really love the fig note. It's not very prominent in this because there are some other heavyweights there that are bullying it. Like for instance, that booze, the whiskey there, the cedarwood, that's going to be a note that is obviously heavier than the fig. But yeah, there is a, you know, fruity tease to this, a little bit of a powdery tone to it, a rosy tone to it there. The rose comes across as a little bit fresh, I think. Yeah, there is a fresh, not necessarily piercing green, but like a fresh tone of a rose wrap up in this. And then there's going to be tons of spices in there, or at least to my nose, I get what feels like a mix of a lot of spices. There could be some cinnamon in this. I'm just guessing now. There is also a leathery wrap up to this. Okay, let me just confirm. But I think I do smell leather in Nefs. Okay, yes, there's definitely leather in here, right? So there is a leather in here, but it's a gentle leather. It's gentle enough leather for me to say this is outright unisex, 50-50. If you're a woman, you want to blind buy this, you can. If you're a man, you want to blind buy this, you can. It's totally genderless to my nose. Very gorgeous, a mix of an aromatic, fruity, floral, faint fruitiness, but floral wrap up of a fragrance with a slight tone, slight boozy tone. The whiskey, as a note there, is not bullying everything. Everything is honeyed, if I must say. Okay, there's the honey there at the top, so everything comes across as smoothened and honeyed, almost like the ambery there. And I am smelling a little bit of some oud. Let's see if this one has got, oh yeah, it does have oud. Okay, very gentle oud there. Gentle oud, not the sort of stanky oud or a heavy oud. This is an oud that even a non-oud lover, you know, would find themselves gravitating to or would find themselves enjoying. I love the mix of this fragrance. The fact that they have used the heavyweight notes in there, the booze, the oud, the woods, the leather, but it builds a very nice soothe and round up of a fragrance there with an ambery tone. So absolutely amazing. This is another one that I might actually add to my collection if money was of no object. This is one I would totally wear. Gorgeous fragrance there. Nefs, also marketed as an extrait, guys, and it's the 6th one on this lineup. Number 7, guys, is going to be Colognise, and based on the brief tasting I did of this fragrance, I can tell you offset that this is a citrus toned fragrance, a fresh fragrance. We're just going to give it one spray there, a quick spray there, okay, for me to remind myself. But yeah, it's got an aromatic tone to it, but it asserts itself immediately as a green, light, fresh citrusy scent. So this is one that might not wow a lot of people, but I can see why this house needed to add a fragrance like this within their collection. It's mostly a mix of the neroli as well as the vetiver and a grapefruit there that weighs in a little bit soury, okay, but marrying well with the ingredients that are already in here. That citrusy fresh tone of this fragrance makes it almost immediately scream summer. So this is definitely a fragrance that's going to be appropriate, you know, for that summer season. The unfortunate bit when it comes to this fragrance is the DNA might not wow a lot of people, because I did actually test it side by side with my vetiver pamplemousse by Zara, and I was left thinking that maybe that is what they were actually going for. I mean, all along I thought vetiver pamplemousse was a fragrance that was going for neroli portofino until I smelled Colognise, and I realized that, no, it could be that Zara vetiver pamplemousse was actually an attempt on this fragrance. So yeah, beautiful fragrance. They're very summery. Another one that's safe for both genders. It's not as less complicated as some of the common summery gym scents that you find there. There is a little bit of some complexity in this fragrance, you know, especially the mix of that vetiver. I think they nailed, you know, the way they played around with the vetiver, because vetiver, it can be one of those notes that can either make or break a fragrance. So I love how the vetiver in this interplays, especially mixing with that neroli, making it a gorgeous summery scent. The lasting power for this, though, comes across as one that maybe you either have to overspray, unless I'm mistaken. It just comes across as a DNA that you may need to overspray. It does feel like a fragrance that can potentially last the whole day. But in terms of it lasting till the next wash, I think it's going to be dependent on the number of sprays, because it just gives me that fresh toned, you know, DNA there, which sometimes needs reapplying. Okay, so I'm not going to put, say, hours to it, but I'm just saying this one in particular, of all the ones I've spoken about, does come across as one that you may need to reapply. Okay, it's called Colognise, and it's sitting on number 7. My closet is so hot, guys. From time to time, if you see my hair like all over the place, that's because I would have just fanned myself quickly, right? On 8th position is going to be Pachuli Kozha, right? This, beware. If you don't like patchouli, you're not going to like this fragrance. And I'm one of those people that can stand patchouli depending on how it's made. I can tell you offset that this is a patchouli bomb. Yeah, and I can still smell it on this. Okay, I'm just going to spray just a little bit of it, okay, to remind myself. But this is definitely a patchouli bomb. If you don't like patchouli, you're not going to like this. And that patchouli, guys, mixes with leather and black pepper. So all those just go on to anchor the depth of this fragrance, making it to some noses a little bit harsh there. There is the incense note that is also listed in there. So it is a heavy weight of a fragrance, something that is going to come across as even masculine to some people. I think they have added hyacinth to this, if I'm not mistaken, but the hyacinth doesn't seem to be getting that much of a chance. Where is Pachuli Kozha, right? Hyacinth, ylang, okay. Yeah, so those notes are included, but they just pacify you at the opening of this fragrance and then hand you over to that patchouli, okay, that's going to do the most, and that black pepper, the leather, the honey, as well as the incense. So this is going to be one busy fragrance that some people are going to find as a DNA that aligns with masculine fragrance. It's just a heavyweight, long-lasting fragrance, the one that a little goes a long way, okay? It is a heavyweight DNA there. So Pachuli Kozha, and if you know patchouli, you know that patchouli can do the most when it comes to anchoring a fragrance, or at least giving it that weight. So the fact that this one is actually patchouli followed by Kozha, Kozha, whatever the Kozha means, you know, is obviously going to be value for money for those who love beast mode fragrances. Just make sure you do love patchouli. It's sitting on number 8, guys. Okay, the next one's going to be Ambra Calimbra. Kind of feels like abracadabra. And I wish I hadn't said that, because I'm going to keep tongue twisting myself and saying abracadabra. Okay, but I would refer to the little, to the little box there. Ambra Calimbra. Okay, so I'm going to give you a close-up of the little miniature bottle, and then of course spray it on the box just like we've been doing with the rest of them, right? And then I am going to tell you my thoughts, right? So this has that amber note in the forefront, okay? So this is going to give you a sweet and sour tone, yeah, of a fragrance almost immediately. The sourness of this fragrance could be coming from grapefruit as well. I don't know. Let's see. Where are you, Ambra? It says bergamot, galbanum, green leaves. Oh, okay. The sourness then is coming from the green leaves as well as possibly a tea note. Because green leaves sometimes can interpret as like a tea note, okay? And then there's jasmine in the mid there, colander seeds, some sweet amber musk, and some vanilla. Okay, so that is the note pyramid. It interprets to my nose as a leafy green fragrance with that citrusy tone. The one thing I can say about this one is, apart from the resinous amber that you get from this one, it kind of feels as though owning this one and colonize, okay, and colonize might not be a good idea, at least to my nose. They kind of vibe the same, okay, except of course if you love that amber note, and you can decipher the amber note because it comes across as very embery there, aromatic, embery, resinous, that sort of thing, okay, but with a piercing citrusy accord to it there. So it may be advisable that say for instance you own one, you want to test one, and then to just purchase it, unless you can tell distinctly the differences. They both vibe as summer fragrances to my nose, okay? But if you were to ask me which one, of course I prefer, I think this one has got a little bit more depth than the Colognise, okay, because of that warm embery accord, you know, that summarizes the DNA of this fragrance. So yes, that is our number 9, guys. Ambra Calimbra, all right, and it gives me unisex vibes, so men and women can totally wear this one. I'm also not going to put a lasting power to this, guys, because of that citrusy freshness there. The fact that it comes across as, well, this comes across as summery, but with the potential to cross over to other seasons, I guess, because of that amber wrap up to it, as opposed to Colognise. Colognise, of course, you can wear any season, but it is a fragrance that feels to my nose as though it comes alive in the heat. Colonizes this one, right? Now, this I am saying because of the embery accord, does feel as though it will do summer outright without problem, but can potentially cross over to other seasons. So now we're on number 10, and that will mean we only left with one, okay, and that will wrap up part 1. Part 2 I'm going to do next week, okay? So number 10 is going to be Vain and Naive. If money was of no object, there's nothing to think about. Vain and Naive is a fragrance I would absolutely purchase. Full price, okay? This is the presentation. I'm sorry if my camera is blurry. That is because these words are very, very small, okay? So there's only so much that my camera can do. Gonna spray it here. Okay, that's Vain and Naive for you. This is beautiful, guys. This is beautiful. It doesn't list the note of coconut, but the first thing you're going to get is a coconut burst of a fragrance. So everything is wrapped around like a coconutty tone, in as much as they haven't listed it. But the coconut tone in this is not really pushing it to Santani for me. No, does it feel like a coconut the way it's done in Guerlain's Terracotta? It doesn't come out, you know, just like a slap in the face of a coconut. Right, so the top of this is bergamot and orange. So there's going to be that fruity tone, okay? Which other fruit is there? There is plum as well as raspberry. But this fragrance doesn't make it about the fruit. It makes it about that coconut wrap up, or that coconut tone, presenting a jasmine there and a rose, which is going to make it more of a floral than it is a fruity. You're just going to get accents of an underlying fruitiness, but it doesn't make it about the fruits. And if you look at the pyramid for this fragrance, it's easy for you to think it's going to be a fruit bomb. It's not. I don't know how they managed to do that. They managed to put the fruits at the top there, but it just comes across as an exquisite wrap-up of a fragrance. It's very sophisticated there. Does not align with traditional sweet, fruity fragrances that are on the market, that have been done a gazillion times. You can see the weight of the expertise of the house of Nishane in fragrances like this. The fact that this is beautiful, okay? There is coconut there, unmistakable, but they did not list coconut as a note. I'm trying to see whether there's something that could be interpreting as coconutty there, because it doesn't list coconut. Actually, it talks about tonka bean, there's musk there's benzoin, nothing to do with coconut. So I guess that's a secret note, you know, that is meant to surprise us there. So there is a coconut wrap up to this, but it doesn't make it just about a creamy, you know, like a creamy, milky coconut. It is a very nice wrap up of that coconut pairing with a sandalwood there, and then presenting the gentle florals and a tease, you know, of those fruits, the plum and the raspberry there, just a tease of those, and the orange, but not enough for you to call it a fruity fragrance. This, to my nose, comes across as very feminine in terms of how feminine fragrances have been stereotyped. So this is what I'm going to say, if you're a man, maybe you want to test, okay, because it does have like a sweetie wrap up, something that can even be quoted as being girly, all right? That is what I get, but without being juvenile. It is a grown scent. It does come across as very sexy there, but does feel a lot feminine to my nose, to an extent that if I'm to put a percentage here, I'm going to say maybe 85% feminine. And if you're a man, you love those feminine toned fragrances, then you are going to get, or you are going to like Vain and Naive, but gorgeous scent nonetheless. Say, for instance, I was blindfolded, won $1 million overnight. This is going to be coming to my collection, same as 100 Silent Ways. Okay, then let us talk about number 11, which is going to be the last one for part 1. Okay, and the number 11 is B-612. Kind of feels like B12. Okay, B12. All right, B-612. I'm going to open this with my what you call it, nail cutter there. Okay, so this is how B-612, okay, it looks like, or at least that is the wording there. I'm gonna spray it, but this I'm gonna just the box is still smelling of it, but I'm gonna spray it anyway, okay, because this is one that has a Middle Eastern tone to it. This is one that certainly, say for instance, I walked in the store and I had all the money in the world, I probably wouldn't purchase this one, right? But it does come across as one of those fragrances that the men are going to like there. But to my nose, reminds me of how Middle Eastern fragrances are done. You know, how they use a lot of spices, a lot of woods, mixing with a lot of aromatic notes there, presenting a fragrance that's a little bit green, a little bit woody, a little bit mossy, that sort of thing. And then there is the lavender there, adding an aromatic touch. So the fragrance, to my nose, reminds me of Middle Eastern fragrances. It is refined. It's not like in your face, like a slap in the face. It comes across as gentle. The wrap up of everything is gentle. They're not pushing it, but there is a Middle Eastern tone to it, to an extent that I personally wouldn't purchase B-612 for myself. But I'm going to say, if you love those spicy, masculine toned, leaning beasts of fragrances, because the composition in itself feels very strong there. It does interpret as an extrait. It feels very heavy, very rich, lush there. It just feels very concentrated, but Middle Eastern tone. So this, to me, for now, in this whole lineup, is going to probably be my least favorite. There's also the patchouli note that they have used there. So there is the woods, the patchouli, the spices, the lavender. Okay, lavender is one of the piercing notes that you're going to get there in the opening, and then it becomes a wrap up of woods, spices, even a herbal tone to some, and that patchouli adding like a dusty wrap up to it, a little bit of some greenness there and a Middle Eastern tone to it. So it is just for that reason, guys, that I personally wouldn't add this to my collection, and it is for that reason that for now, this is not conclusive, but for now, I'm going to say out of the 11, this would be my least favorite. But it does come across as a very beast mode performing fragrance, where if you drop your coins on it, it's definitely going to be value for money, because a little is going to go a long way, guys. So that is the 11th one, wrapping up part 1 of the Nishane Discovery Set fragrance reviews, or at least my thoughts on the ones that I have. We're going to continue with part 2 in another video. Okay, so I'm going to be tomorrow. It's going to be some other time when I get enough time to do it. So we have exhausted the ones that are missing there, and we just left with the 3, 6, 9, 10. Okay, so the Discovery set in itself had 21. I purchased mine off Skins Cosmetics, but I'm pretty sure you can pick up this one off the Nishane website. I just decided to purchase this, and as I said at the beginning of the video, you're going to see a lot of discovery sets on this channel, because until the channel makes enough money, or at least I'm sponsored or something like that, I will not be able to bring you full-size fragrances, because all the fragrances I am purchasing off pocket. C Chronicles is my name. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you did enjoy this installment of Western Wednesdays. Let's meet in another video, guys. But meanwhile, stay safe, stay blessed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.